folks, this is chapter 2 on Afghanistan, basically talking about this chatter about how the China on the back of Pakistan is going to get one because of the withdrawal of the United States now has an advantage in Afghanistan, and of course China has got all these dreams about using Pakistan, who will control the Taliban who will control the Uyghurs, and then it's really thinking about this corridor from China, CPEC corridor all the way, building a corridor all the way to the Arabian Sea. Delusional at best. I don't know if any of you remember, for 15 years or 20 years that the United States was there. There was this huge talk about how the US and the private sector was attempting a pipeline, gas pipeline from Kazakhstan or from the Central Asia all the way to it. Did it happen? Never happened. There are too many contradictions, too many conflicts in Afghanistan for the likes of even Pakistan to be able to handle. The kind of contradictions that it has, the blowback that I expect that will happen to Pakistan and hence China will be far greater than it will happen to India. India, with its grid, a maximum we can expect is a infusion of a lot more jihadis trained in Afghanistan. But without a counter-terror grid, I think we can handle that. And Afghanistan must remember, the most consequential relationship for it is the United States, because without that there is no global recognition of consequence. China is not of consequence. China cannot provide them the development funds that they need. So no reconstruction funds, no development funds. They, like Wilkinson, they will be a pariah state without any visas to go anywhere consequential, except maybe China. And the body language between what I saw, Wang Yi and these guys, these mullahs from Taliban, it's like oil and water, folks. But here, let's see what C. Raja Mohan writes. Taliban 2.0 and the Afghan test. Quiet satisfaction in Moscow, Beijing, Tehran and Rawalpindi is tinged by worries about longer-term implications of Washington's threat. The biggest threat to China is now America will have all the funds necessary, all the resources necessary to nail China. And they better be worried. He says if Delhi is patient, opportunities could open up. He says the speedy withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan has been matched by the swift advance of the Taliban across the nation. Together, the two developments have moved Afghanistan into the court of regional powers that now have the burden of managing the military vacuum created by the US retreat. Okay. The quiet satisfaction in Moscow, Beijing, Tehran, Rawalpindi at seeing America humbled in Afghanistan, however, is tinged by worries about the long-term implication of Washington's retreat. It is one thing for them to take joy in an American defeat, but it is entirely another matter that they have to cope with the consequences of the US withdrawal and the resurgence of the Taliban. Rawalpindi worries about the danger of the conflict spilling over the east of Durand Line and hostile groups like the TTP gaining sanctuary in Afghanistan. On the face of it, the alliance between Pakistan and China starts with some advantages in Afghanistan. Pakistan's deep connection to Taliban combined with China's massive economic resources could in theory, contribute to the transformation of Afghanistan. But there are many imponderables that complicate the picture. The Taliban itself remains a major variable. Geography has given Pakistan the capability to destabilize any government of Afghanistan, but it does not have the power to construct a stable and legitimate order in Afghanistan. Finally, the contradiction between the interests of Afghanistan and Pakistan is an enduring one. While many in Pakistan would like to turn Afghanistan into a protectorate, Afghans deeply value their independence. All Afghan sovereigns, including the Taliban, will inevitably look for partners to balance Pakistan. Okay? Then, Afghanistan has to be free from malign influences, India and Pakistan. Then, Pakistan's terror group joined Taliban war, India wary. Pakistan won't take refugees as more areas fall to Taliban, India calls back. So here is the issue, Pakistan and the refugees. Then, Pakistan jihadis join Taliban ranks, return as dead bodies. Okay. Taliban rockets hit Kandahar airport, all flights cancelled. 30,000 Afghans fleeing country every week. Militants say aim was to thwart airstrikes by Afghan security forces, but that continues apace now. Big test for Ghani government as Taliban launches simultaneous attacks on Kandahar, Herat, and luckily at this stage Helmand holds steady. Russian Foreign intelligence chief talks about coup with India in Afghan theater. This is important, folks, that what is happening is that the airstrikes have started now, and if Helmand can be held by the Afghan forces, I think the tide will turn around and you will find that Taliban will have to regroup. So China is essentially relying on Pakistan to build the bridge between itself and Afghanistan, and hoping that they don't suffer at the hands of the Taliban the way the United States did and Russia did, right? But I think here their faith seems to be shaken out a bit after the blast that killed the 9 of their countrymen in Gilgit and Baltistan. And as a result of which, they've got these guys. They were invited to a conference in China where you saw Wang Yi standing with these mullahs, and they just look like oil and water, right? Now, they're going to have to worry, but you see what's kind of happening in Pakistan and between Pakistan and Afghanistan. This has to be a big worry for anybody who's putting their eggs into Pakistan's basket, right? Because Pakistan, while is an able destroyer, is hardly a capable builder. Never been. Okay, so what do we got here? POK election marred by claims of irregularities, violence to death. So India begins talks for special UNSC meet on Afghanistan situation. Now, this position that we have as the rotating head really gives us some advantages. After Afghanistan proposed a special UN Security Council discussion on the deteriorating situation in the country, India, which holds the rotating presidency of the UNSC this month, has started consultation to hold the special discussion in the coming days, sources said. And we should push it. US Afghanistan airstrikes pummel Taliban targets in Helmand. US and Afghan airstrikes hit Taliban targets overnight in southern Helmand or province in an effort to dislodge the insurgents after they captured much of the provincial capital of Lakshadgah. Okay. Pakistan Interior Minister says families of Afghan Taliban reside in his country. Pakistan face off over Taliban. Ghani blames Pakistan for negative role in peace process. At least 17 media persons have been killed in Afghanistan. Ghani, Imran in public spat over Taliban surge in Afghanistan. Pakistan PM points fingers at ideology of RSS. I mean, he just gives a whole spin to this whole thing. Taliban's destructive acts openly celebrated in Pakistan, says Afghanistan president. But Pakistan is worried. Pakistan deploys regular troops at forward areas on Afghanistan border, says report. ISIL-K hopes to attract militants who reject US Taliban peace deal. And here, even Pakistan is going to get nailed, right? Afghanistan peace meet in Pakistan postponed amid row over support to Taliban. Afghan envoy's daughter was kidnapped in Pakistan. Take immediate steps to ensure safety of mission staff. Afghanistan to Pakistan. Pakistan has what to do. Pakistan blames India, Afghanistan for distortion of facts on envoy's daughter abduction. Wow. But this is what really shook the earth for the Chinese. 9 Chinese among 12 killed in Pakistan bus blast. China seeks punishment. Pakistan Foreign Minister ISI head rushed to China under blast shadow. Days after Pakistan blast, Qureshi to arrive in China for talks. Beijing tells Pakistan to boost security after Chinese personnel killed in bus blast. China calls upon Taliban to steer Afghanistan peace bid. Now this happens after the blast, because now finally earlier they were saying no Taliban control over Afghanistan. I think they've given it. During talks in China, Beijing tells visiting Taliban delegation to crack down on Islamic groups fueling unrest in Xinjiang. This is not going to happen. Russia bolsters bases in Tajikistan as US and NATO forces leave Afghanistan. So it's going to begin to cost Russia too. After Sergei Lavrov and Putin trying to take revenge, it's going to be hell to pay for them and China both. This is a beauty. Will launch joint actions with Pakistan and Afghanistan to drive out terrorists as China. A bigger gobbledygook from China. China's PLA is incapable of launching attacks against terrorist folks. It's a pussy. It's just a soft-bellied thing that relies on that overbearing control of citizens. Not going to happen here, folks. China, Wang Yi, and Xi Jinping and Imran. This is, in my opinion, your Napoleon. More after that. So Pakistan and China and Pakistan have this rosy-tinted plans, glittering plans for Pakistan post the withdrawal of the United States. But let me just tell China this. Best laid plans can go awry if you trust Pakistan. Iron brother or not, as the country has too many contradictions. Now look at this, right? Wang Yi reaches out to Mullah Bardar, who offers him assurances. China pledges its support to Taliban, seeks aid to tackle Uyghur militants. So it's all about Uyghur militants. But at the same time, what's happening? Attack on bus with China engineers, 2 held in Pak. Gunman targets Chinese workers in Karachi, investigation on. Too many contradictions, and you really cannot take Taliban's word for it, folks. Everybody who's taken their word for it has lost its shirt. And anybody who's trusted China has basically woken up and seen it's left only with its underwear. So what do we have? Avinash Paliwal writes, Sino twist to Afghanistan-Pak puzzle. Given China's foray, India's Afghanistan strategy must look at Iran, Taliban and even Pakistan. Maybe not, right? Beijing's propensity to delegate its Afghanistan policy to Islamabad, the question of balance between Islamabad and Kabul will become moot even if popular Afghan opinion remains critical of Pakistan's interventionism. It is more than comfortable with Pakistan taking the lead to target China-centric extremists today, and that will be its biggest mistake. Apart from coordinating with the US and Quad allies, India must intensify engagement with China. True, Tehran, similar to Moscow, is opposed to a Pakistan-controlled Sunni-dominated, Taliban-led Islamic Emirate in Kabul. China was on the same page but has suddenly lost its gazungas. To maintain the momentum of engagement with allies in Kabul and reassured them of continuous diplomatic, military and financial support. And what does C. Raja Mohan write? When China meets Taliban, demands on Beijing to help stabilize Afghanistan are growing, it is easier said than done. What does he say? The idea that money can buy Taliban's love is not new. When the Taliban was in power, the US oil company, if you remember this, I mentioned this, Unocall sought its support for building a natural gas pipeline from Turkmenistan, but it did not appear too interested. Seducing the Taliban might be a tall order even for Chinese capital that has shown enormous appetite for political risk and considerable success in elite capture in different parts of the world. There is no elite here. That's the difference. Then what does Kabir Taneja writes? China sees both an opportunity and a threat in Afghanistan. That's rightly. 2018, China has arguably preferred to deal with the Taliban through Doha, but this time the equation changed after the terror attack in Pakistan that killed 9 Chinese workers in the country's Dusa region. State-backed Chinese publications blamed the attack on TTP and the ETIM. The latter has direct connections with Uyghur Muslims in China's restive Xinjiang province, where the state has locked in more than 1 million Uyghurs in re-education camps. China's fear of Islamist groups such as ETIM gaining strength in a largely unregulated Afghan landscape emit from the fact that Beijing does not want the issue of Xinjiang to become a rallying war cry by any Islamist group in this region. It will. Here is where China has stepped in. It is willing to give political support to the Taliban and not interfere in its affairs in Afghanistan, but in return it will hold the group accountable if Afghanistan is used as a staging group by terrorists targeting China. Of course, the Taliban has a similar understanding as part of an agreement signed in 2020 with the US over Al-Qaeda, with no signs of actually honoring any of these commitments. Right? However, China, like others, will also be wary of any potential expanded role in Afghanistan, while many analysts have highlighted that the vacuum left behind by the US is ripe for the Chinese to fill. That is easier said than done. It is expected that Beijing on the security front would prefer to work on such issues via its only true ally in the world, Pakistan. This in turn will push Islamabad to control the Taliban even further. Pakistan will have to attempt this while battling the TTP, which has been emboldened by the Taliban's juggernaut. Like I said, too many contradictions in Pakistan, folks. India should play itself out, build the Northern Alliance, build Iran and Central Asia. Jai Hind.